Syndicate put you in charge of a world that needed taking. Not as a hero, as a corporation. 4 agents, a map of territories to claim, and a game entirely indifferent to how you claimed them. No game since has properly captured it. Satellite Reign, 30 years later, is the strongest case that one has. Syndicate came out in 1993, made by Bullfrog Productions. A real-time tactical game about corporate warfare. 4 cyborg agents, a world domination map, and missions that asked you to acquire territory, neutralize targets, and upgrade your tools as the operations grew harder. One of the most influential games of the 90s, and one that no game has properly managed to follow. Satellite Reign arrived in 2015, Kickstarter funded, and building from the same template and making the case that it could pick up where Syndicate left off. This video is about whether it earns that comparison, and what you gain and lose along the way. Syndicate's missions were the game. 4 agents dropping into an isometric city with a minimal briefing, a set of tools, and a clear objective. Above them, set a simple world map. Pick a territory to take, and set taxes on what you own to fund your research. Light as a strategy layer, but it gave the missions their frame. You were building something. Territory claimed, influence spreading, and every mission was in service of it. You were not commanding heroes with names and backstories here. You were operating instruments, configurable before deployment, interchangeable if lost. And the Persuadertron was one of the modifications you could fit, and it was the one that told you what kind of game you were actually playing. You could shoot your way through almost everything in Syndicate. You could also walk a converted police officer through a secure building and have him open the doors for you. Both worked. The game was entirely indifferent to what you chose, and that indifference was the point. You were not being invited to feel something about the methods. You were being given the methods and asked which served the objective best. Loading it gives you the original anticipation. Cold map, tools ready, the sense of what you're about to attempt. Whether the game lives up to that depends on what you're bringing to it. The missions run 10 to 20 minutes each and end cleanly, which is a better session structure than most modern games bother with. The world map gives you a natural break between them without demanding much. If you're coming to the game fresh without any prior history with it, it holds up well enough to be worth your time today. The interface friction is real though. The map movement is clunky, the isometric view makes reading inside buildings difficult, and there is nothing in the way of a tutorial to ease you in. If you're returning to it after years away, you may find the gap between your memory and experience is wider than you expected. I certainly did not find what I was looking for when I went back. Not because the game is bad, but because some of what we all remember was the feeling of playing it for the first time, and that is not a feeling that we can go back to. Give it a couple of hours though. New games to understand how it works and why it mattered, and returning players to read it for what it actually is rather than what they remember it being. And then you'll understand what the games that followed were actually working from. Satellite Reign shares the bones. 4 agents, a corporate dystopia, and a game you can pause to think and unpause to act. The defining structural choice is replacing Syndicate's discrete missions with an open-world city, and that change cost something real. Syndicate's missions had hard edges. You finished one, and the game asked nothing more of you until you chose to start the next. Satellite Reign's city keeps updating. The mission doesn't close off, and there's no completion screen handing the session back to you. That means that after a few days away, the realistic cost is a few minutes getting your bearings, where your agents are, which districts you've softened up, and where you are in the current objective. The game does no track what's next for you, so finding your feet again is manageable. But the psychological difference in Syndicate is real. There's no clean completion, no screen handing the session back. Syndicate never ran a tab. Satellite Reign is always waiting for you to come back. It's not a game for a spare 20 minutes. You need to give it a proper session, or leave it for when you can. The agents are now distinct classes rather than anonymous upgradable units. Syndicate gave you tools you configured. Satellite Reign gives you specialists you deploy. The Infiltrator carries a version of the Persuadertron as a class ability, and the Hacker is where the same idea, that how you complete the objective is entirely up to you, lands most clearly in Satellite Reign's own terms. Send the Hacker in first, and you can take a building's security network apart before your other agents move in. Camera feeds go dark, automated defenses drop, and the operation runs without a shot being fired. It carries the same logic as the Persuadertron, control without direct violence, and working on systems rather than people, but it's a different mechanic. But it is the same instinct, and Satellite Reign builds a whole playstyle around it. The city itself is doing things while you operate in it. Corporate patrols shift, intel accumulates if you have the right agent in the right place. Miss a patrol route and it costs you. Position correctly and the operation runs clean. Syndicate never asked you to track any of that. The missions ended before it became relevant. Satellite Reign is part of the job from the start. Get rumbled and the city responds. Guards pursue. The operation turns reactive, and what was going quietly becomes something you're running from. Lose an agent, though, and they respawn at a nearby relay rather than being pulled from the missions entirely as Syndicate would have done. It's therefore more forgiving. But in Syndicate, a lost agent was gone, and you felt it. You finished the mission with whatever you had left. That weight is gone from Satellite Reign, and the decisions feel lighter for it. The opening hours are where Satellite Reign is at its best. The city feels genuinely alive, and the approach to each objective feels like a real choice, with a design philosophy working at full stretch. That is where most people with limited time will spend their sessions anyway, and it definitely earns them. Satellite Reign is not Syndicate. It is more demanding, and its sessions are less cleanly bounded, and the persistent city asks something of you that the original never did. But it does carry the instinct forward, the corporate frame, the choice of method, the sense of operating rather than adventuring, and nothing else modern has come close to that. If you want to understand what it's building from, then spend a couple of hours with the Syndicate original first. If you want the modern version of that feeling, knowing it will not be identical, Satellite Reign is the buy. Neither game is a tired evening game, though. Both need real attention and a clear head. Satellite Reign, in particular, is a weekend start. Give it a proper first session to establish your agents and learn the city's rhythms. That first session does the setup work. After it, coming back is easy enough. You know the city, you know your tools. And the sessions that follow feel like work you're directing rather than work the game is doing to you. Satellite Reign does not replicate Syndicate, and the feeling is not identical, but the instinct is right. And after 30 years, that turns out to be close enough.